For more now, joining us in the studio is Sultan Barakat. He's a professor of public policy with Hamad Bin Khalifa University. And live from Tehran is Aslani. He's a senior research fellow at the Center for Middle East Strategic Studies. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for being with us on Al Jazeera. Aslani, I want to start with you first. We've just had notification that apparently Iran has presented another proposal to the Pakistani mediators that hopefully they will pass on, or they're expected to pass on, to the United States. In your assessment, do you think, given the fact that we have now reached this May 1st deadline, where in the US, where Congress has to decide what happens next with the war, and that we know that Donald Trump has been receiving advice on what potential military action he could take next in Iran, how much of this is a genuine proposal to put forward to the US, and how much of it is the Iran trying to stave off any potential military action by the US?
Well, I think we can describe it a situation whereby both attempts, diplomatic ones, or let's say even a military escalation could be gaining momentum as we are proceeding to the following days, and the coming days will be very decisive in setting the future trajectory. And Iran at least is having an eye on the, let's say, military front, where they are seeing that the US military posture in the region has been intensifying, which indicates that the likelihood of any, let's say, resumption of the hostilities is significant. But in the meantime, we are seeing back and forth in the diplomatic field. The Iranian foreign minister recently visited Pakistan, and now, after some, let's say, feedback from the Pakistani side through getting to the reaching out to Americans, we are seeing that they are working on those ideas in order to hammer out the proposal to move toward a potential agreement. Previously, there is not much detail about the new proposal, which was submitted last night, but the previous one focused on the most immediate challenges, and which was the ending the war, as well as reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and also addressing the U.S. naval blockade. And it is yet questioned whether that nuclear issue is included in the new proposal or not, because of the serious gaps between the two sides. Iran thought that maybe it would be best to focus on the issues that they might be able to find a middle ground, and leave the nuclear issue for a later time in future if there was an intent to address them in future. But at least they could agree on the issues that could be very, immediate or urgent, not just for Iran and the US, but also for the region. And we are seeing both tracks, diplomatic one or a military escalation. They are both in the making. Which one will gain more momentum or will have higher chances to, emerge is yet a question. And I think maybe after a few days, we might have a clear answer to this question.
Sultan Barakat, we still, as Aslani was just pointing out, we still don't yet know what the detail is of this proposal. But given what we have seen over the last 24, 72 hours or so, if this proposal does not put Iran's nuclear industry, nuclear program up front and center, do you think the US is going to pay any attention to it?
I think so, because if you listen to what the War Secretary said at the Congress in the last day or so, he kind of admitted that there was no imminent nuclear threat from Iran. So if you say this publicly, then you are in position to negotiate around when will this threat be of an issue to you, and how long will it take for you to try and reverse it. So there is, I think, some space there. And I think both parties have been testing each other, and they're testing the ceasefire. On the Iranian side, for example, what Israel is doing in Lebanon is really testing the resolve of Iran. They have agreed a ceasefire, they signed a ceasefire, but it's nothing like a ceasefire. They're still pushing across, they're still destroying villages, they're displacing people and so on, and we've heard nothing from Iran. The Americans have also tested their resolve by introducing the naval blockade. That came after the ceasefire, and the Iranians complained, spoke loud about it and so on, but ultimately they did not attack the naval ships of the United States, and they did not try to force their way across that blockade. In fact, what they're trying to do now, and it's kind of helping them a little bit, they're trying to find alternative routes through Pakistan and elsewhere. Now, that means that both sides are really desperate to come to an end to this in a way that's safe face for both sides. And I wouldn't be surprised now that this latest proposal, the fact that they've reversed the first one, it may lead into something. And we have to keep in mind that whenever we talk about Pakistan and its role, we should also read into that China. I think China has been working quietly behind the scene, exerting its influence on at least on the Iranian side. But also, we have to remember Trump, he's postponed his visit to China from last month to this month. It's coming in a few weeks. So I think globally, everybody is now putting themselves in a position to try and at least turn this into even a protracted ceasefire, but it's a form of normality. And of course, we have the Gulf states and the neighboring countries who've suffered a great deal, and they've just about tasted the return to normality here. They would be also exerting a lot of pressure on the United States to try and extend this. Obviously, to various degrees. I think Saudi Arabia is probably benefiting net of the situation at the moment because of the incredible increase in oil prices and their little reliance on the Hormuz Strait, compared to Qatar, who's probably the most in terms of suffering economic losses. But nevertheless, I think globally, everybody is now working towards at least maintaining this status quo until the two countries are ready to do bigger steps. And we could see also on the Iranian side, they stopped talking about sanctions for now. They stopped talking about reparation for now. They're trying to present the Strait of Hormuz as the main nugget. You know, if you help us resolve this, which wasn't an issue before, then we're all okay and we can call it a day.
Well, I want to pick up on that point with Abbas Aslani, because we had this statement from Iran's supreme leader on Thursday where he was saying, and I am paraphrasing, but essentially that control of the Strait of Hormuz is now in Iran's hands. Essentially, this is the new normal, and Gulf states just have to get used to it along with the rest of the world. Given the fact that if, as you say, Iran is attempting to make the Strait of Hormuz the point of negotiation, which is doable, which is achievable, at the same time, that's not really sending the right message, is it, to the Gulf nations who are desperately hoping that this is going to be reopened and they can get their goods through?
Well, you know, Iran has been saying that they are ready to negotiate about the Strait of Hormuz, but in the meantime, they have been stressing that they need to adopt the protocols in the, waterway, because, you know, this is important in terms of the security in the region and for Iran. And major part of the military buildup in the region where it was carried out through sea and the Strait of Hormuz as well. That's why Iran is saying, you know, abandoning the Strait of Hormuz as exposing, you know, existential risk for the country. And in some ways, Tehran is trying to see this as a guarantor for the lasting peace in the region, that, you know, this will work and function as a leverage that the United States will think twice before engaging in any new round of aggression against the country, because Iran will again be able to disrupt the traffic of the energy in the region. So that's why maybe Iran is seeing this could work as a deterrent factor for any additional conflict in the region.
Aslani, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for Middle East Strategic Studies, and Sultan Barakat, here in the studio, Professor of Public Policy with Hamad Bin Khalifa University. Gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed.